What? No. What? These are out here? These are actual things. Okay, I really don't understand this. I don't think I've seen so much love for a villain in fiction like this before. And I mean full villain, not brooding and confused anti-hero, but 100% legit bad guy. And I hate to be that guy, but Loki fangirls, this is not a good idea. Now, I'm gonna say this from the jump. This is not gonna be a hit piece against Loki fangirls or fanboys. If Loki's your boy, then don't have any shame in it, and don't let me stop you. Besides, at the end of the day, he ain't real anyway. But as the god of mischief finally takes the spotlight with his own show, now is as good a time as any to give a little tongue-in-cheek warning to anyone who may be tempted to keep people like Loki around in their lives. And yes, there are people with the same mental makeup as the master of magic, and we need to be able to know these snakes when we see them and act accordingly. So what about Loki do we need to be careful of in our own lives? I'm the guidance guy, and your internet school counselor is gonna break down this tricky fiend so you don't get broken by those like him in the real world. For Loki, I'm actually gonna start with a clip from my Vision Mini to begin our look into this guy. And the New York incident with Loki? You can't really blame Thor, seeing how Loki's inferiority complex is what caused him to try to take over the world. And if you haven't seen that mini, you know what to do. Go down to the description below or to that special corner up top and check it out. Before our would-be king, he does indeed have an inferiority complex, which is a mentality of feeling like you don't measure up in at least one area of life, which can lead to feelings of depression and as well as attempts at compensation. The odd thing about inferiority complexes is that it's not an actual medical diagnosis, but like say imposter syndrome, it's a phenomenon that's acknowledged by mental health professionals. But we do see this in Loki in both as a child and as an adult. As a young one, he always felt less than when compared to young Thor, like he was living under the shadow of his brother and thus had very little chance to stand out, much less become king of Asgard. And that jealousy followed Loki as he and the Thunder God got older, but for the Horned One, his complex manifested in a different way. Instead of brooding over how much he would never be king like a certain feline in a similar situation, his inferiority complex manifested in the latter half of the definition, namely aggressive overcompensation. And, I mean, he hasn't done that too many times, right? Except for all the times he tried to kill Thor and that time he tried to take over the world. And for you gifted students out there, yes, this is all due to a low self-esteem. Loki's feelings of inferiority are directly linked to his less than stellar view of himself. He felt like he wasn't good enough to be king, that he wasn't on the same level as Thor. Those feelings never stopped him from trying, mind you, but those thoughts were still swirling in his head. And for us, we gotta watch out for these kinds of people. This is not to say to avoid people with low self-esteem. Absolutely not. Those people need encouragement, support, and friendship just as much as anyone else. What I am saying though is to be careful around those whose low self-esteem leads them to take out their toxic feelings about themselves onto other people. And this can show in many different ways, either by creating drama amongst friends, manipulating people, and even bullying. They may pull you in with a sad story that makes them the victim in order for you to see things their way, or even twist things to make you feel like the villain. That's what Loki's done, and that's what the Lokis of the world would do if you allow them. But let's move on for now to perhaps Loki's biggest vice, his narcissism. In the last Goddess Guide, we brought up the possibility of Cruella De Vil having narcissism. And though in her case, labeling her with narcissism wasn't so cut and dry, it definitely is so for our puny god over here. Let's go over some of the symptoms of narcissism real quick. Exaggerated sense of importance, requires constant praise and validation, desires to be seen as superior, takes advantage of others to get what they want. Now, that's not all the traits, but you know that all just screams Loki. He doesn't just believe that it's all about him. He wants everybody to make it all about him. He desperately wants the adoration, the praise, and ultimately the validation that he felt he didn't get when he was younger. Now, some of you may look at this and go, well, yeah, who would want to hang around someone who has a psychological desire to be propped up at all times? And if you think like that, good! You know how to avoid people who would otherwise make your lives miserable. But then again, narcissists are known for being charming and having a pleasant personality. I mean, I've been exposing all of Loki's crimes and vices this whole time, but even I have something of a soft spot for this guy. He has an underdog aura about him, and his flippant attitude even in the face of the most insane situations. Part of me kinda wants that, to be able to look at harrowing, dangerous scenarios and go, whatever man, that's just cool. So I understand how people could be into this character. I just want to make sure no one's falling for this kind of person IRL, because it's those kinds of people in our world. They're able to attract people like magnets with their smile, swag, and suave, and then blind them to all the dirty dealings they're committing on the side. And this isn't always easy to catch, because charming people are charming. But in those situations, you need to be able to objectively look at what they do. Do they treat everyone equally? Or do they only shower love on those who give them what they want? Do they lash out at those who disagree with them? Do they demand loyalty from those around them while having no such loyalty for anyone other than themselves? That's how you can pin a narcissist. Don't pay attention to the words, pay attention to their actions. If their actions don't match up with their glowing words, then watch out. But even with all this, there's still one more trend to watch out for when detecting out the Lokis among us: the twisting of the truth. So what we've got so far is a narcissist with low self-esteem and an inferiority complex. But we're not done yet, because the two-time king of Asgard is also a pathological liar. I mean, at this point it comes with the territory. You can't be the god of mischief and not be able to deploy at least a little bit of deception here and there. But he takes it to another level. He can control people's minds and fill it with whatever he wants, hide his own presence, change his appearance like a regular Mystique, and even create illusions. You know, it's a shame that he's a bad guy, because he would have made a killer spy, man. Talk about missing your calling. But no, what he does instead is use his abilities to try to prop up himself and subjugate everybody around him in order to satisfy his own ego. And it's this trickery, this deception that Loki is best known for. It's so bad that Thor can't even trust his own brother. And that's the end result of all liars. Destroyed trust. And to many of us, it may be obvious what to do next. Just walk away and move on to the next. But again, with our real life Lokis, they got that narcissistic charm going for them. They can and will say anything to get you to give them another chance, that they will promise to never do it again. Some may even go as far as to gaslight you and challenge your own perception of reality in order for you to blame yourself so they can walk away faultless. That's how they're able to stay in our lives and call the same tricks from their game book over and over again. These kinds of people will lie even when confronted with the truth. So how do you deal with these people? In this case, you gotta cut them off where you can. If you don't have to deal with these people, then don't. These people can change, but don't assume that it's your job to do it. They need to see their need to change. They need to have a desire to change before they can begin that journey. And if you can't ghost them, if you live with them, work with them, then put some distance between yourself and them. Interact with them only if you have to, and when you do, know who you're dealing with. Confirm their statements and confront them when needed. Because just like how Loki was able to slither away with the Tesseract in Endgame, you can't allow liars to wander around your life. Because trust, dealing with someone like that on a daily basis can be draining. And it's better just to cut your losses and move on than to try to play a rigged game. Low self-esteem, narcissism, pathological lying. These are the underlying issues that plague the Prince of Asgard. Is it likely that Loki will experience some kind of change of heart and become a completely different person in his self-named show? Come on now, he ain't changing. He is who he is. And if he did, the fan base would not be happy. But in our own lives, we need to be wary of the villains and self-interested people in our own lives. Sure, our battles against them aren't going to be remotely as grand or dramatic as the ones we see on the big screen, but in some cases, the best thing we can do is to not engage in battle at all. Because at the end of the day, the biggest trap we tend to fall into when dealing with real-life Lokis is to think that we can help them, that we can change them or encourage them onto the right path. Just don't go down that rabbit hole. Because in most cases, these people will know what you're doing and will exploit you for whatever ends that they have for you. That may sound harsh, but there are some people who you need to separate from. You're not giving up on them or abandoning them, but you're saving yourself from the emotional and mental strain that being around them would cost you. Because in our modern age of heroes, we're often tempted to want to save others. But in reality, we can only save ourselves when we make that choice. Naturally, don't be a jerk about it, but you have to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and not sacrificing any part of your sanity for the sake of somebody else who's just trying to use you. And make sure that as you go through life, that sometimes you are your own best hero. Thanks for watching, and be sure to put some ideas in the comments, people. I want to know what you want me to talk about next. And of course, do the YouTube thing as well. Like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you'll know when the next video is ready. Until next time.